Hello everyone, I am Professor Beena Balal and today I am going to talk about some important concepts related to mobile communication. Now, uh, before we go ahead with the concepts of mobile communication, let's look in short about the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, electromagnetic spectrum is the entire spectrum and various bands are present in order to give certain applications which are allocated for those bands. Now, I will not go into details of the various bands. Now, right now, the band that is important for us over here is the UHF band that is used for cellular phones or our mobile phones. So, the band that is important for mobile communication is ultra high frequency band, which ranges from 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz. And another important point is that the type of propagation used is LOS, that is line of sight propagation, which simply means that from the transmitter to receiver, there should be a single path without having any obstruction. In other words, my signal should not suffer any reflection, diffraction, or scattering. So, two important points over here. The cellular communication uses the UHF band, and secondly, the type of propagation is line of sight propagation. Now, second important concept is the handoff process, which we have already seen in detail earlier in my session, but I'll just quickly revise it because I need to talk about some further aspects of handoff. Now, handoff is a process in which when a user moves from one base station to another base station, and if the call is in progress, then MSC, that is Mobile Switching Center, automatically transfers the call to the new base station. That means if I am presently in cell 1, which is having base station 1, and if I am moving at a particular speed towards base station 2, that is my cell changes from cell 1 to cell 2, then my call automatically gets transferred from base station 1 to base station 2. That means there is no drop of call that is happening because I am changing the cell, or in other words, I am changing the base station. Now, the process of handoff is already done in detail, as I mentioned. Now, important parameter which handoff is to be in handoff, which is to be considered, is delta. Delta is PR handoff minus PR minimum usable. That is power of the handoff. It's the difference of power handoff and power which is required, which is minimum usable. Now, this handoff, this parameter, which is delta, is very important in deciding when to uh, have the handoff done by the system. Now, in first generation analog system, which are our 1G system or first generation system, this were entirely analog systems, as you already know. Now, generally, signal strength measurements are done by the base stations, which are ultimately supervised by the mobile switching center. Okay. Now, these pieces of information related to power are passed to the MSC, that is Mobile Switching Center, in order to calculate that delta. And once the delta is calculated, then that delta decides when to take the handoff. Now, in 1G system, the handoff processing takes almost 10 seconds, which requires the value of delta between 6 dBs to 12 dBs. This is a particular range in first generation systems or 1G systems, which are analog systems. If you talk about second generation systems, which are digital cellular systems, we have a different concept of handoff, which is called MAHO, mobile assisted handoff. Here in this case, mobile assisted handoff, the handoff basically is taken care by your mobile station or MS. So our MS or our mobile station or our cell phone continuously measures the power levels in the background of the surrounding base station, and all these measurements are given to the base station. So mobile basically assists the base station in order to take care of the process of handoff. That's why it is called mobile assisted handoff. Now, what is the advantage of Maho? Maho basically ensures that there is faster handoff or quick handoff or handoff only when it is required. And secondly, the burden of MSC is shared by your mobile station. Why? Because mobile station is assisting MSC to decide when the handoff should take place. So this is a very unique feature of second generation mobile systems or 2G system onwards, which are digital systems. So mobile assisted handoff is very popular because the burden on MSC is reduced to a great extent, and only when required handoff will take place. Now in GSM, that is Global System for Mobile Communication, this time of handoff reduces to 1 to 2 seconds, which requires the value of delta to be 0 to 6 dBs. Though in analog system it was around 10 seconds, now this handoff here just requires around 2 seconds. So delta value ranges from 0 to 6 dBs in this second generation systems, which is using MAHO, that is mobile assisted handoff. Now, after understanding the actual process या value of delta in your second generation system and first generation system, next concept is prioritizing handoff. Okay, so handoff, in order to have the handoff done properly, we have two methods of prioritizing the handoff. The first one is called guard channel concept, and the second one is called queuing of handoff requests. Let's look at the first one, which is prioritizing handoff. Now, under prioritizing handoff, the first method is guard channel concept. Now, in guard channel concept, some of the channels are exclusively reserved for the process of handoff, so that if handoff is required, those reserved channels are used for the purpose of handoff. Now, advantage over here is that there is increased probability that successful handoff would take place. But at the same time, the greatest disadvantage is that some of the channels are permanently reserved for handoff. So the channels which are required for the actual traffic becomes fewer. As a result, it reduces total traffic as fewer channels are allocated to originating calls. Why? Because some of the channels have already been gone or reserved for your process of handoff. So the first method of prioritizing handoff is guard channel concept. Now, second method, which is a much more popular method, is queuing of handoff request. Now, what happens in queuing of handoff request? It decreases the probability of forced termination. Okay, whenever there is a handoff that is required, the queuing of handoff is done, and queuing is possible because there is a finite time interval between the time the received signal level drops below the handoff threshold. Now, one thing you have to remember is that queuing does not guarantee zero probability of forced termination, right? So, second method doesn't guarantee that it is going to be a zero probability of forced termination. Why? Because large delays will cause signal level to drop below the minimum required level, and then it may lead to forced termination. So in order to prioritize the handoff, I have got two methods. One is guard channel concept, where permanently some channels are allocated, and queuing of handoff request is the second one, where you are queuing the handoff, and depending on the requirement, you service the handoff request. The next definition, which is very important as far as handoff is concerned, is dwell time. Simply, it means that time over which my call may be maintained within a cell without the handoff taking place is called as the dwell time. So it is the total duration of the call in which there is no handoff has taken place. जब handoff हो जाता है, that is not my dwell time. So time over which call is maintained without the handoff is called as dwell time. There are three factors which influences the dwell time. One is propagation, second one is interference, and third one is distance between subscriber and the base station. These three factors influence my dwell time to a great extent. And the last concept in this video which I'm going to cover is the umbrella cell approach. Very simple but yet interesting concept. Now in umbrella cell approach, as you can see in the diagram, there are large cells and there are small cells which are co-located. So whatever you see inside a larger cell, hexagonal cell, those are my smaller cells, and this is my large cell. Now this concept is particularly used for proper radio coverage. That means this guarantees larger area coverage as well as smaller area coverage. So how does this go on? Now this has two types of cells, smaller cells for low speed traffic and large cell for high speed traffic. So if you see, there are small cells which are co-located and inside a larger cell. That's why it is called umbrella cell. A large cell is covering very small cells which are co-located. So larger cell is used for high speed traffic and smaller cells are used for low speed traffic. Now by using the antennas which are of different heights and different power levels, it is possible to provide large coverage as well as small coverage. Okay, so there are separate set of channels which are reserved for large umbrella cell, and there are separate set of channels which are reserved for smaller, yeah, low speed users. So if I'm a low speed user, if I'm walking, I will be using this smaller cells which are co-located. So smaller cells are served with smaller base station with lower power, and larger coverage is given by this particular base station or this particular tower, which is having a larger area and also which covers a larger area, which takes care of the high speed users or high speed uh, um, people who are using the services in that particular area. So umbrella cell approach basically is very important because it is, the advantage is that it minimizes the number of handoffs for high speed user. If I had not had a separate provision for high speed user and low speed user, I would have had to have a number of more number of handoffs for high speed users. Okay, and for pedestrians who are walking, who are traveling at a very small speed, then these micro cells or smaller cells provides the coverage to those particular users. Okay, a high speed user who gets converted into a low speed user may be switched to a smaller micro cell by the base station from larger cell, but here MSC intervention is not required. So as a result, umbrella cell approach also reduces the load on MSC as far as this high speed to low speed, or low speed to high speed conversion of the user is concerned. As a result, umbrella cell approach is a very important approach which takes care of both the types of users, high speed as well as low speed user. That's all from my side for this particular video. Thank you so much.